Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee, we are back. Council Ordinance 24-0521, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. We are up for the Mayor's Office of Small and Minority Business Advocacy and Development, MOSMBAD. At least that's what the kids say. Eric Costello, Councilman from the 11th District, Chair of the Committee, joined by Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District, Councilman Ryan Dorsey, 3rd District, member of the committee. To my right is Tony Leva, staff to the committee. We're also joined by representatives from the Mayor's Office and the Council President's Office. It's now Director, no longer Chief.
That's correct, sir. Thank you.
Director, please take it away and please introduce all your team members' first and last name and position title. Please and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Costello and honorable members of the committee. Good afternoon. I remain honored to be the inaugural director of this impactful agency focused upon our local small minority and women's businesses. I want to thank my entire team for being professionals that operate to serve the business community at a very high level. I want to especially thank my executive leadership team that's here with me, Deputy Director Stephen Campbell, Small Business Resource Director Paul Taylor, Baltimore Main Streets Director Charlene Nader, and Chief of Innovation Strategic Partnership Vanessa Freund. I have to especially thank them for all their hard work and assistance. I'm just going to give a brief opening statement and then just move into the slides. Our best practices for our remedial civil rights program, our minority and women's business program, mandates the utilization of a digital diversity compliance management software. B2G is the leader in the field. We are fortunate to be able to regularly confer with thought leaders in our field nationwide via our network and seeking out training opportunities. B2G via Workday integration will capture all city contract payments. Prior to implementation, we held numerous training sessions. The way this will function is that each month when a prime is paid by the city, it will require them to complete a contract audit reporting the amount of the payment and any amount paid to subcontractors, including MWBE subcontractors. MWBE subcontractors will then be required to confirm the amount reported by the prime and will be immediately advised of any discrepancies in the project audit. This will enhance project management, diversity compliance management, and provide visibility to payments to our contracts to ensure subcontractors are paid fully and timely in accordance with their statement of intent and the contract MWBE utilization requirements. This will further allow us to provide the city's annual spend and MWBE procurement spend without having to wait the years for us to complete a disparity study. Training is available for how to utilize the system. They're being conducted, regularly conducted live training sessions, and they're also on-demand sessions within the system via B2G. We'll very soon also be performing our contract goal setting within that very same system. With our digital process, businesses are now being certified faster than ever before. Upcoming on June 13th, we'll host the City Procurement Conference at the Convention Center. A special thank you to Convention Center Director Matt Campbell for all of your partnership. This will provide a forecast of upcoming opportunities to partner and work on city contracts in FY2025. This is critical to allow our small local minority businesses to plan and prepare for these opportunities. In addition to their array of webinars and technical assistance, beginning in August 2023 for Black Business Month, Director Taylor in the Small Business Resource Center established a Candid Conversation speaker series. Speakers provided insight regarding bonding, accessing capital, the need for legal services, and getting MWBE certified. We continue to support makers via the Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency's Advanced Manufacturing Center for the Mid-Atlantic. In FY24, we grew the agency to bring more services to the business community. I want to highlight a few of my new positions that have been added to the team. Our Public Relations Officer, Elroy Bynum, is now working to ensure that you know about our great work, events, and contracting opportunities. Our investigative unit has now doubled to 2 investigators, enabling SMB A&D to engage in random audits of contracts. The Baltimore Main Streets Dream Team under Director Nader has grown from a 2-person operation to 5 members, with a 6th to join shortly, and has expanded to 9 Main Streets with the addition of our new Park Heights Main Street. There is now a position that functions as a training coordinator and payment liaison. This is both internal agency and external business partner training. Additionally, she diligently advocates to ensure that they are paid fully and timely. Our Chief of Innovation Strategic Partnership has been instrumental in our transition to our digital processes and continues to contribute greatly to our innovative approach. This position will enhance partnerships with local chambers, financial institutions, academic institutions, and our philanthropic partners. As of today, we have 24, and we'll have 25 as of Tuesday, with a new contract compliance officer joining our team. The staffing plan should be completed in FY25 Q1. It will include additional positions to govern data, assist with outreach, provide financial guidance, additional investigators, and contract compliance officers. We look forward to bringing additional resources and programming in FY25, including contract scope unbundling, agency training, a business development program, technical assistant consultants to assist with marketing, finance, and technology, additional trainings for our Main Street directors, managers, and our team, and implementing a financial vehicle to assist businesses with access to capital. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss SMB A&D's work and my fantastic team. And with that, I will go into our slides. So our full acronym of MOSMBAD, but abbreviated as SMB A&D for obvious reasons. We love our mothers, but we provide technical assistance. Touche. But we provide technical assistance and resources to small, minority, and women-owned businesses with the goal of this service to expand the number of small businesses and achieve neighborhood revitalization via equitable economic growth and development. Some of our key activities we obviously certify the minority and women-owned businesses via the MWB program and maintain that directory of the certified businesses. We invest any alleged violations of the ordinance, Article 5, Section 28, governing the MWBE program. We maintain all of those statistics regarding the availability and utilization while setting those annual participation goals and the specific goals on each contract. And we, of course, provide that technical assistance in assisting bidders and developers in identifying MWBEs to partner with them on projects, to serve as subcontractors, and also promoting those opportunities for MWBEs to be prime contractors as well. And of course, our neighborhood revitalization with the Main Streets program. As we move into FY25, our primary goals are to complete hiring to fully staff the agency. This is year one of the agency, so we are still in the process of completing our staffing plan. But as I mentioned previously, that should be completed in the first quarter of FY25. And we're also going to be, we're in the process of completing the change management for the citywide transition to the digital contract compliance. We have gone live with that module within B2G, so we are currently beginning to track contracts in that system. It is a process due to the number of active contracts we have, so we're in continuous work with our agency partners and also with our business partners that are working actively on contracts to get those contracts locked in to ensure we have the right information about what has taken place so far on the contract. The biggest key with that is we will get a roll-up of all the payments that have happened thus far, even predating our access to the system, for the entirety of that life of the active contract. So it'll get us up to speed. Right now, we only have the single service, 834. Over this fiscal year, we will be working to, in collaboration with BBMR, to work on splitting apart our services for our different types of dynamic work we have within the agency, such as Main Streets, the work of the Small Business Resource Center. We'll be breaking out some of those things and probably leave also one for the certification program as well. When we get to, so service description was really covered by our mission due to it being the one service. Our major highlights is we have been creating those positions that I've been alluding to that we've been filling. We're also getting this year for FY25 $50,000 in Pimlico Impact Aid. This is PCDA funds that are going to be utilized in that Park Heights area, specifically going to the Sankofa Children's Museum of African Culture, which is one of our critical businesses that is in one of our benchmarks that's in the new Park Heights Main Streets. When we look at our performance measures, the annual average number of days for certification application review in FY23 are actual. We were able to get to the point of that now being 8.32 days. That's a phenomenal number for us because the state takes 6 months to certify businesses. So we're really pleased with our ability to still conduct investigations, but quickly move folks that we can see are eligible for certification very quickly. Additionally, the number of training and outreach sessions provided, we've drastically increased the number of outreach sessions and trainings we've done. Now, part of that is coming off of the pandemic. The other aspect of that is just our emphasis we're placing on it. We recognize we have, internal to our process, a lot of new processes we have to make sure our agency partners and the public are up to speed with. And also with outreach, we're really focused on making sure that we really are getting a lot of information out there about upcoming opportunities, and the utilization of our resources throughout the agency, but especially with the Small Business Resource Center that is there to provide that technical assistance. And that concludes my slides, and I'll turn it over to you all for any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorsey.
So you're going to 6 positions in the Main Streets office? You have 5, you're going to 6.
That's correct.
Is that 6th one of these 31? Plan additional?
Sorry. Bring it from the top.
You said, yeah, thanks. There are 31 positions. 5 or 6 of them are Main Street.
So the 31 is inclusive of all the positions I've been discussing. So we have 5 currently that are on the team. The one that I was speaking of adding is already in process. It's being created currently.
It's included in this 31.
That's my understanding, yes.
I've been recipient of a lot of information about Main Streets lately. I guess the first question I have is, Boston has 20 Main Streets offices that are managed with 5 people. We have 8 coming, a 9th coming on. Why do we need more people than they do in order to manage less than half as many Main Street districts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to answer your question, but I do want to take a step back. So Main Streets has been a program that's been operated by a director with 1 program coordinator for an extended period of time. We just now, in this fiscal year, have hired more folks so that we're even at those numbers. One of the things I'll say, when you look at a program like Boston, they give their Main Streets $100,000 annually. They have a different city structure than we do for their program and the way they function. I would say one of the reasons why we need more people is that we need more support. We have a lot of businesses in our Main Streets districts, and we haven't necessarily seen the revitalization that we'd like to see out of the program and in some of those neighborhoods. So we want to provide additional support. And to do so, we need to be out there and have a capacity to meet with those businesses. And when we have neighborhoods with 60, 80, 120, 150 businesses, it's very difficult for one individual to be responsible for 3 or 4 neighborhoods and really do justice to those business owners. So we're trying to create those one-on-one opportunities to really talk to them, to provide them with technical assistance, to help them when they're looking at potential grants and things like that. So we're just trying to give more support to individual businesses with that effort.
My understanding is that the support that's being provided is not only not the support that's needed, but is also undermining the work that's being done in certain ways. That by being duplicative in directly going to businesses, which I'm understanding is happening quite a bit, going to directly to businesses instead of through the Main Streets in the districts, that it is disrupting some of the work that's being done by the localized Main Street and detracting from the more locally identified operation as opposed to a citywide kind of operation to reach these businesses, where the funding, because we give so little, right? As you just said, they give 100,000, we only give, what, 60,000?
That's correct.
So because we give so little and the Main Streets are so heavily reliant on their own fundraising efforts in order to be able to operate, which they're successful at, I believe, it's really important for them to continue to be the absolute like end all be all of the front line of what's visible in terms of the main streets operations in the city, because their funders are so hyper localized in identifying, the neighborhood identity is so important to the work that they do in fundraising, as opposed to the city of Baltimore being what is recognized as, as being the catalyst and driver of this. And so we really, I think, need to stay like as clear out of the way of the operations of those Main Streets offices as much as possible. And the kind of support that's really needed is support that we've had in the past that I haven't heard exists, that doesn't exist today, and I haven't heard is coming into existence, particularly very specific kind of technical support, like through architects and designers and engineers and folks who might who are really necessary to support the very limited number of programs that Main Streets are consistently offering. Specifically, things like facade improvement grants, where Main Streets is the local Main Streets offices are the kind of in-between, the go-between for businesses in the area that they represent and the Baltimore Development Corporation with the facade improvement grants, but they don't cover the design work that's necessary. And so people aren't able to avail themselves of the facade improvement grants if they can't ever get to the design aspect of this. The city of Baltimore at one point had architects on retainer or in-house in order to provide that specific technical service. And I understand that it's been made clear that that's the kind of support that is needed in order for the Main Streets to really perform, and it's not being provided, and I don't hear that it's being planned to be provided here.
So thank you, Councilman, for your question and your perspective on this. As always, we appreciate it. You've covered a lot, so bear with me, but I want to parse through it. So in terms of the program, it really is a public-private partnership. So we're always looking to work in partnership with all of the Main Streets. We definitely are not hearing the feedback that you're hearing in terms of us in any way being in the way or duplicating efforts. We did hear that at one point from someone, and we were able to clarify. There was actually a misunderstanding about what was taking place in that particular situation. But in the end, I do think that we do hear from business owners in all of our Main Streets that are looking for more support. For as much as we appreciate all of our managers and directors, they also have a small staff and a small team. So we're trying to at all times amplify and to be of greater assistance to the businesses and to the managers and directors. We're open to meet with anybody that is, anybody that's contacted you that has any concerns. We'd love to follow up on those specific concerns and assist in any way. From a technical assistance standpoint, we are going to be actually operationalizing some funding coming up that is going to be providing additional technical assistance. Some of that assistance will be going specifically to the Main Streets. We're in the process of really revamping the program and building out the program in a way that we want to be responsive to our 9 Main Streets, the businesses, and to the community as a whole. But we really are not seeing the revitalization throughout the program in all of those neighborhoods. So we really are looking at other ways that we can contribute and assist. We have looked at retaining architects, and believe it or not, that was a topic when we actually did have the discussion about it. A lot of folks had said that wasn't something that they actually needed at this time. We do not at SMB A&D oversee the facade program. It's with BDC, but we've helped numerous businesses throughout the Main Streets and just throughout the city outside of the Main Streets get facade improvements. We've had many businesses this year get facade improvements, and we have assisted on some of those. We're looking at other ways that we can provide that assistance, potentially with architects being on retainer, potentially with providing funds that could be utilized for a match for facade improvement grants. But we're looking at a host of ways that we can improve the dynamic and provide more assistance.
Thank you. To be clear, though, it's not your office that's helping them get the facade improvement grants. It's the local offices that are doing that, right?
It's both. It's in some cases definitely the Main Streets directors and managers. In some cases, we're literally helping folks as well with those applications and through that process. As
a committee request, then, can you please provide a full account of the last year or 2 years? I don't know. of facade improvement grants that you have facilitated without reliance on the local Main Streets offices?
Just anybody that we've helped through the process at all?
Anybody in the Main Streets office, any business that exists within a Main Street district that you got the facade improvement grant through, as opposed to the Main Street operator in that Main Street district?
Okay, we'll definitely work on fulfilling that request for you and getting that information. I will say, with the fact that so with the prior Main Streets director leaving in April of '23, we only had one person on the Main Streets team, Director Nader, from May of '23 until March of '24. So I don't want to set false expectations that we've done a million of these, but I know we have assisted in some circumstances, but we did have limited resources when it was Director Nader and myself trying to do as much as we could to assist Main Streets until we hired and had those positions available to hire.
Well, that's kind of my point, is that this is the work, this is the bread and butter work of our local Main Streets district nonprofits. It's not supposed to be the work of a citywide office. It's supposed to be the work of those Main Streets offices. And so it shouldn't be coming through your office. And so if you're doing it instead of letting them do it, then you're encroaching on the work that should be very localized for them to do. And that shouldn't be happening.
So I appreciate your point, and I think we're in agreement because based on what I was just saying, we haven't had much capacity to do that. We've been available to do that. I know we can find you examples of doing it. I'm not certain of the timing of precisely when those took place, but I think we're aligning with your vision here that of not frequently assisting on facade improvement grants. We typically do other things with Main Street businesses for technical assistance that are not the facade grant.
Then I guess I'd like to know what those other technical, like,
Yeah, so-
another account, I'd like to know an account of the businesses in the Main Street business areas that you have provided the technical assistance to instead of the Main Street offices themselves. I don't know, how do I make a distinction?
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, like, I will say, I think some of that will be able to provide some information. Some of that is difficult to quantify because that may be as simple as Director Nader had a conversation with someone about a grant that they were informed about, or we informed them about a grant, or we assisted them with a financial question that they might have had, or Director Taylor might have met with them at the Resource Center. It's not always one way that we assist that particular business community. That's why when we were speaking of facades, that is definitely something that we can help with. We do if somebody comes to us and we try to assist, but since it's not even our program, that's not a primary driver of where our time goes. And what I'm trying to highlight is that because of the nature of having a two-person team and then a one-person team, the extent of resources that I'm satisfied with and want to provide haven't been there, and that's why we've needed to add additional staffing so we could get the capacity to be able to provide that greater assistance.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll pass here, but I'm going to just ask if you could please provide to us a written
Councilman, do you want to hold that? Because I'm about to dig into this, and then we can just summarize at the end. But I have a feeling I'm going to ask exactly what you're about to ask. But you can go ahead.
Thank you. How do you measure your success? I'd like a written explanation of how you measure your success in the Main Streets office. And can I have that by the end of next week, please?
If I could have another week, we have the holiday next week, and I'm actually going to be off next Friday, so I've got a short week. So if I could have 2 weeks, that would be much appreciated. And it does have to go through the approval process to get it back to you.
I'll defer to the chair at this moment. Thank you.
Let me start by saying I understand there's an email that's been circulating amongst the council. I'm not privy to that email, so my questions are not related to, I haven't seen the email, so They're not related to the email. Whoever sent the email, I just want to be clear on that. I'm talking about Pennsylvania Avenue and Federal Hill from my specific experience working with those two groups over the past decade. So now I got that out of the way. Let me start by saying that the level at which we fund these Main Street programs is unconscionable and embarrassing. It is, yeah, those words sum it up. So last year, I had to fight tooth and nail to get, and this isn't directed at anyone that's up here, this is just general frustration that we experience. Had to fight tooth and nail to get the city to send out a $35,000 disbursement that was like 11 months past due, right? So if I was a small business, I wouldn't want to do business with the city of Baltimore because it takes 11 months to get a $35,000 check. That's embarrassing. Next, led the effort to fight tooth and nail to get an extra $25,000 disbursement. I certainly commend Laura and her team or whomever decided that $60,000 should be the new baseline. While that is woefully not enough, 60 is better than 35. I think we can all agree on that. But then we get to the point where we have 5 staff members currently servicing the main streets. Miss Charlene, correct? Charlene. I'm so sorry, ma'am. Miss Charlene, and then you currently have 4 other staff members that work underneath you?
That one.
5, to be correct, including myself will be 6.
And then we're adding another position? Where did we get, because I heard at
Yes.
the beginning 5 to 6.
I believe I might have been giving the count including Charlene initially.
Okay. So you currently have 5 employees underneath you. You are the 6th.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
you are the 6th. And then we're adding another person to that?
Yes.
So we're going to have 7 total people.
So one thing I guess I should have cleared up in advance. So one of these positions is a PCDA funded position that is for
Just for Park Heights.
correct. That's
Got
for
it.
just for the Park Heights Master Plan Development Area. That's not limited to the Main Street.
Totally get that, but that further reinforces and does not diminish the point which I'm about to make, which is we nearly have 1 staff member per Main Street program at this juncture. We will be at a ratio of 9 programs to 7 employees. Is that correct?
So we would need to clarify some of the roles, though. Like everybody that's on staff is not responsible for, like Director Nader is not responsible for one of the main streets. We have folks that are actually working with the Main Street businesses, but that's not everyone's role. We now have somebody that has been added to the team that's going to be assisting us with training to help facilitate the training. We have some funding that's going to be going to the actual Main Street managers and directors for training, and they're going to be
We're requiring them to do training?
requiring. There is not a requirement in the agreement that they're forced to do the training. No. We'll be offering training to them, and we potentially will be requiring board-related training potentially.
So is that
as we move
training
forward.
conducted by one of these employees, or is there
Yes.
a module that we're contracting with some firm to use?
We're going to be doing internal training, and then we'll also be taking advantage of other training that's from National Main Streets and also the state program as well.
So
It'll be
we're-
a combination thereof.
Yeah, but we're not, see, here's the problem. What does an average Main Street director make annually in salary?
From an average, I believe it's in the neighborhood of, I think $60,000.
65 plus,
I am guessing. I haven't done the actual math to give you the direct average, to
No,
tell you
no,
the truth.
that's-
And there is variation amongst main streets based on their budget.
good enough for government, as I like to say. Laura, based on your experience on a $60,000 salary, what's the cost of providing fringe benefit, all that good stuff?
at a $60,000 salary, that you're looking at probably $80,000 to $85,000
Total?
total.
So we'll just call it a third, so $80,000. So we are not even providing enough funding to cover the salary of the executive director, which means the executive director has to go out and fundraise. And fundraising is different in Federal Hill than it is on Pennsylvania Avenue. So, and instead of closing that gap, we're adding more staff in the mayor's office. Have we talked to, and again, none of my disdain here is directed at anyone in this office. Let me be clear about that. Have we talked to the Main Street directors? Have they told us that they want, well, let me finish. Have they told us that they want more training, that that's what they need? Or have they told us, I'd like my life to be a little bit easier so I don't, so hang on, so I don't have to raise the money for my salary, so I don't have to wonder about how I'm gonna make ends meet and how I'm gonna keep my job so that I can be clear-headed and focus on the mission at hand, which is promoting the Main Street program and the 100 or 200 some odd small businesses that deeply rely on me for constituent services and interaction with the city and connections to whomever and marketing support and technical assistance.
So I think we're obviously dealing with more than one challenge. I don't think it's, I think we've hyper-focused on things like training, or if we're helping with facades, there's a lot of support that we're trying to provide. And one of the things that folks have said is that, yet we don't see you in the neighborhood. We don't feel like we get to talk to you enough, and we don't feel like we get support for city services and for technical assistance, whether not necessarily, whatever they need. We're hearing that they need more from us, and it's more than one person or two people are able to do for the number of businesses that we're trying to assist per Main Street. I'm sorry?
Hey, no, I got the floor.
Sorry.
Please continue.
But that's the challenge in terms of this partnership, is that we have a tremendous number of businesses. We have completely different neighborhoods. All of our neighborhoods have their own distinct quality, culture, features, aspects of businesses. And as a result, some of them need more, some of them need less. But out of our 9 main streets, we do have neighborhoods that really do need support. We have a lot of business owners that are doing well in business, but do have a lot of struggles, whether it be access to capital, trying to get an understanding of their cash flow. There's a lot of challenges at place, and we are trying to assist in addressing some of them. I'm in complete agreement as far as the desire to fund this program and fund the actual main streets with a greater allocation. I would love to do that. As we all know, it's an extremely challenging financial environment right now for the city. So I think that this is reflective of that environment, and I think it's also reflective of historically where we've been with the program. And it's very unfortunate that we haven't had even 3 people to service, at that time, 8 main streets that all have dozens and dozens of businesses. So this is where we're trying to get additional resources to be able to actually be able to meet with business owners, provide actual technical assistance, hear more about the even have the opportunity to hear more about the concerns, be more active in community organizations to talk about not just, obviously we're doing this via economic revitalization, but also hear about other aspects of the community where we can assist, because we are concerned about neighborhoods being cleaner and greener, helping with illegal dumping, helping with public safety items where there's lighting issues, where there's abandoned vehicles. We're trying to be able to help neighborhoods in a holistic fashion that's not just simply saying that we're here if you need us. And that has been the mindset and how we've been trying to approach and bring the additional resources. And we've definitely heard from the Main Street directors. We've spoken to them a lot about the things that they need, the things that they would like, and we've been trying to be responsive to those things as much as possible.
I suspect, based on my extensive conversations with leadership on Pennsylvania Avenue and Federal Hill, that the thing that Main Street directors most need from the city is basic core city services to be delivered efficiently and effectively, whether that's trash cleanup, filling potholes, DOT maintenance division, making sure streetlights are on, police coverage, all those things that fit in the core city services. And then secondary to that, I believe that they need money, cash disbursement from the city to support their operations, starting with they should never be in a position to have to raise their own salary. That's insane. We don't ask city employees to do that. Why would we ask someone else to do that? We should not be doing things that we're not willing to do ourselves. We should not ask that of others. That is beneath us. And the structure of how the program is being run is, in my humble opinion, disappointing and misses the mark on providing the level of support that's necessary for these small business districts to flourish. Let me ask, on what level of frequency are these staff physically going out to main streets and like walking the district? And I don't mean like a photo opportunity with like 75 people. I mean like actually doing real constituent services work and going out there and walking and logging 311 requests and helping to navigate city bureaucracy so that these neighborhood issues can be resolved.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that, but I want to say I'd love for you to reconsider your position on where we are as a program, because it is very early in where we are. We literally have just hired some of these folks within not even 90 days. I'm not carving anything in stone in terms of how we're going to approach the Main Streets program. We've been looking to best practices. We've been looking at the way other programs are structured. We're still listening to our Main Street directors and want to be responsive to those needs. But we're going to continue to build out in a way that is as responsive as possible to the actual needs that we're seeing. And if that comes to a point that we see that a position that was intended to do one original function, we will repurpose that to be more responsive to the needs if that ends up being the case. But with that being said, the folks on the team are in the neighborhoods 2-3 days a week, meeting with business owners, if not more frequently than that. But I would say that on average.
Well, I'm certainly willing to reconsider my position on that. And again, that assessment is not reflective of anyone who's here before us today. That's about a strong belief that we should be providing direct funding and not standing in their way. And I'm not suggesting that you all are standing in their way, but not creating more layers of bureaucracy, so that we should be making it as easy as possible. So nothing is forever other than the Wu-Tang Clan. So I'm certainly willing to reconsider my position on that.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Ramos?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just along that same line of questioning, isn't that BDC's job to work directly with the businesses? Don't they have liaisons also for working directly with businesses?
I'm gonna take that. BDC's budget has been systematically gutted historically, so the short answer is no.
Oh, well, we've had somebody from BDC on Greenman Avenue helping with the Main Street. Now he recently left, but
They do it, but their main streets used to be under BDC.
correct.
And Main Streets ran more effectively when it was under BDC. That's my opinion. And again, I understand that you all are kind of revamping and retooling and trying to build a new structure. But, there was a different level of support that was provided when it was housed in BDC historically, I would say. But
Thank you.
I
No, I
defer.
appreciate that. I'll just say that want to echo what Mr. Chair was saying earlier. We, on the Main Street that I have, just need money, period, and capacity, period. End of story. And yes, we would, so I'll just leave it at that. In the name of time, I have a non-Main Streets question.
Okay.
We heard earlier yesterday that there will be a charter amendment before us at some point in time to remove all the provisions of the procurement out of the charter and turn that into code and regulations. And since part of your office work is to address the minority contracting, I was curious, first of all, if you've been in those conversations, and secondly, how you see that changing the role of your of the oversight of the contracting and procurement relative to minority contracting.
So I've definitely had a lot of conversations with the finance director and our chief purchasing officer about their plans and some of their build out. Specifically in terms of our role as a procurement reviewing agency, it's my understanding that it would not impact our role with the change, and that none of the changes that are proposed would impact any authority that we have within the procurement process, and that the Minority and Women's Business Program is separate and apart from the procurement. Well, we're within the same regulations. We have the second half of the procurement regulations, but we are separate and apart. So whatever movement that would happen if they move from the charter to the code, it would not, in and of itself, anything that I've seen thus far, have an immediate impact on our role with the Minority and Women's Business Program or as a procurement reviewing agency.
Okay, thanks. And just to go back to the earlier point, I just think that we need a lot of advocacy for our main streets, for money, for city services, all of that, but most particularly for money, because our managers know what they're doing. And certainly all of us could always use more training and better, capacity in terms of the skill sets. But our main streets need money.
Yeah.
That's the main issue, to do the work. But also, there is no place in city government that I have been able to find that has business development dollars. I can't get some of my businesses opened until we build out their buildings and provide them with money for their inventory that they could then use to leverage other money, right? We need
Yes.
that. I would love to hear more of a plan around that.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. You're addressing key needs that are there. One thing that I will add along those financial lines is that, obviously we're here talking about our general budget and we're speaking about the city. But one of the things we're going to be trying to do as well is looking to some of our philanthropic partners to also see if we can leverage some of those relationships to get some money that could be of assistance to businesses that are located in main streets.
I think we need to establish a thing. There is no thing yet in city government that says business development. We need to establish that so that there can be, again, the build out costs and the help to work with the business to open up.
In terms of the funding.
And then work with city government to get that money, to work with Bernie or, other state funds or something. Because that, I think, is, in addition to salaries, one of the biggest gaps. But there's no thing there. There's no program.
So we're looking at, we do have a small amount of funds that we're looking at potentially, that I was originally thinking of business grants that would be of assistance in that way. We've also been considering whether it would be more beneficial to do a revolving line of credit for businesses. But if we went the option with the grants, it would be something that I'd be looking to definitely help Main Street businesses with. So that's something we're definitely looking to do. We're just very early in our process. We are looking to bring more resources and more things to bear, but it's been a quick year, and we definitely have had some challenges with getting through some of the processes to get to a point that we can have all of our staffing and everything in order. But we really do have some additional resources that are becoming in FY25 that we think would be beneficial.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director. Appreciate the work you guys are doing. It's incredibly important, and you guys always need more support and more help to do your work. My office often gets folks reaching out to us who don't know how to navigate the various processes, and I noticed for your output measures that we're meeting the old target surpassing that old target, but we're reducing the target for this year, or rather, we're keeping it at 30. I'm curious how you guys are, and I guess maybe you've touched on some of this already, but if you would care to elaborate how you guys are working to make folks aware of how to navigate, of course, the bureaucracy of applying to be a minority or small business within the city.
Yeah, so one of the things we've done is we've tried to streamline how folks can get in contact with us. We still, of course, have an old school telephone line, but we also have a just contact SMB A&D on the website. And what that does is that takes you to a form where you can kind of we pretty much have the FAQs of why you'll be contacting us, and you can give all the detail about your issue. And it goes into the program. We utilize Smartsheet that'll give all the information and auto assign to the best person on my team to answer that issue or question. So that's one of the ways we've been trying to be responsive to people that can't find the information to a degree. We've really pepped up our ability to go to any sort of procurement conference, fair, diversity compliance related event to make sure folks know about it. We're really trying to, we now have a public relations officer that's now established our social media presence to make sure more opportunities are getting put out there. When we hear about grant opportunities from our partners, we're now getting those opportunities more so out there so folks can see them and be aware of them. It has been a challenge in the past, especially without that position being in place, to really try to amplify opportunities that could be there to assist folks. So that's something we've really been trying to do. I'd be remiss if I didn't say one of the big ones coming up with the procurement conference, June 13th. We're really trying to, working with all of our agency partners to be able to talk about a lot of those contracts that are going to be coming on board in FY25 or active contracts that still have needs. Hopefully identifying down to the NACE code level of what's within those scopes so folks can be prepared and want to do business with the city. I think also with our contract compliance, I know we touched on it at some point with payments. I think our ability to see when that, for the prime to go in and confirm when they've been paid and then also say when they've paid the sub, it's my hope that that'll really tie together our project management, because really one of the challenges we have is that you can reach out to project managers. They're not always fully aware of some of the payment dynamics on their project. And this is going to give visibility to really everyone associated with the city to be able to see where we are on those projects and get awareness a little bit sooner, and hopefully not have those situations that kind of death spiral out of control, where it's been the weeks, the months, and even longer that there's been a dispute and they haven't just sought out assistance. With this kind of, regardless of how forthright anyone wants to be, the prime, the sub, the agency, will get notified if a prime is misrepresenting a payment to a sub. So I think all of those things are going to create a better environment where folks are going to see that we're taking the process more seriously with greater oversight. So we're not leaving folks to be potentially preyed upon in some of these dynamics where we just didn't have the prior insight.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm curious, given all your explanation around procurement, and maybe Madam C.A. Leach, you can add some insight here if necessary, but were you guys a part of the drafting process and consideration for recommendations for the bill that was sent to the council, or at least the council president to date? So you're speaking of the procurement bill? Yes.
So we were heavily involved in the procurement assessment and transformation. We had multiple discussions and meetings with them. Since that's taken place, we've had multiple meetings with the finance director. I will be candid. I didn't have edit veto ability on the bill, so I wasn't specifically involved with the drafting. Okay. But we were we were here in January with the CAO, the finance director, the chief purchasing officer, talking about the transformation and where we see it going. But that has been more so on their end through that process. But we are aware, and they have made us aware. We've had those conversations.
Sure. And the reason why I asked that question, I was curious if there were any changes that we were considering that would be relevant to this part of the process, or is it just related but tangential?
Thank you for the question. So no, but to be clear about the bills that is in front of the council, it is about raising the procurement threshold. And then the other charter amendment is about removing all references to procurement and pointing that to the regulations. So there's nothing specific to the MWBE program or the work of MOSMBAD.
Okay, Thank you. Just checking.
And I was thinking I was speaking of the other matter. So in terms of raising the thresholds, it wouldn't impact the program. We would still be setting goals for everything $50,000 or above. We would still have the same. It's my understanding we would still have the same small spend authority for the program, regardless of whether a small spend from the procurement standpoint changes in value. We would be kicking in with the goals at $50,000 for projects and above.
Sure. Yeah. The reason why I asked that question, and maybe I should have asked this question before, but I was curious how often we were actually meeting our goals and if there were tweaks and changes to the procurement process or the MBU process that would help us do that if we looked at that at any point in that consideration.
So that is where we are now with B2G, that as we move forward in FY2025, this will be our first full year of getting our procurement data, our spend data. And as we move forward, hopefully even 6 months in, we'll be able to start being able to present you all with hopefully, if everything goes well, a mid-year spending report that'll show city spending as a whole, where we are with MWBE, and we can hopefully even drill down by agencies as the need arises to really look at those contracts. We're going to get there. We're definitely going through a change management process. This is new for everyone, and it's technology, so it's a little bit different. The benefit that we have is we've been doing our certification with MB2G for almost 3 years now. The state also uses the same platform. So it's a familiar platform. It's pretty easy to follow. They kind of do 1, 2, 3 with the steps. And the audit process is really just an email that you click a link and you can get right to where you need to go. So we're hoping everybody finds it to be much easier associated with the process. Like I say, for buyers, project managers, it should also help them as they're moving items to the Board of Estimates to not get to the last minute and say, well, how do we seek compliance, or what are we going to do with folks that haven't been paid? They'll know throughout that project the way things are escalating and scaling. Also, with our additional compliance officers, we're able to take part in those procurement meetings more so with the agency. So we're very much involved with that process and able to kind of follow contracts through the life cycle. So once we're post-award and things are going on, we can sit there and kind of talk through the challenges. They can reach out and make us aware if there's going to need to be a substitution, addition, if they're anticipating shortfalls, and we can more so work on the problems in real time as opposed to kind of after the fact. Because when we do it in the after the fact matter, we get past the work and there's no way to make it up for that subcontractor, and then they lose the dollars. So with this, we should be able to hone in on things very quickly. The other aspect, as we're adding the additional investigators, is we're going to be able to do those site visit audits to make sure folks that should be on the job site at that phase of the project are in fact there and doing a commercially useful function on the project, and that we can also speak to people about their treatment, their payment, and if there's any other questions or concerns that are going on, if they're being invited to progress meetings, we'll be able to also assist with some aspects of that management of the project to make sure that we're really contracting at the level we want to when people are doing business with the city.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
I have a quick one.
Dorsey and then Ramos.
You said that you've 2 to 3 days a week, there are Main Street staff going out and visiting businesses. Can you provide me an account of the businesses that were visited by whom and on what date for the last 3 months?
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
Okay.
When can you get us that?
If we could say at least a week to next Friday.
This upcoming Friday, so a week from today?
Yes, sir.
That works. Thank you.
Thanks. And back to that other request for a written explanation of how you measure success for the office by next Friday?
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
And sir, is that, are you just saying generally how I measure it, or are you looking for like the actual metrics of the data? Because I thought based on the way you just put the question, it would just be the narrative, how we would be going about that.
Yeah, I think that there are ways that we measure success for the individual Main Streets operations, but I don't know how we measure success for this city operation for Main Streets.
Understood.
Pardon me, I've got too many windows open here. You have 6. You're adding a 7th person that is specific to Park Heights. Do you also have contractual services as well for the Main Streets office?
We have used contracting services for like marketing, for covering events, highlighting businesses, things like that. Yeah, we have to cover and highlight businesses.
Do you have an ongoing open contract for services or somebody that's on call?
We
Or
have a contract that is expiring, I believe, next month. So at the end of the fiscal year.
a contract for how much money?
It was I believe it was per the jobs that we were utilizing. It wasn't like an annual contract. We were retaining them per events or sessions that we needed them for at a rate.
Can you please provide us an account of the expenditures of that contract, the events, the dates, an explanation of them, and how much for each one, and what the outcomes were, please?
Okay.
By next Friday?
That should be doable as well.
Councilman Dorsey, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your request. I just want to make sure we have it tracked correctly. Can you restate it?
Yes, an account of a case-by-case expenditure for the contract for marketing services or promotion or whatever was done through this contract that is expiring, but that has been utilized over the last how long?
That's
I can answer. There are different contracts depending on the vendors that are being used. Some are already done, some will be finishing off by June 30th, but we can absolutely provide that information to you with dates. And
Okay, but this is like over the last year or 6 months or what?
No, I want to say this was starting in January of 2024.
Okay.
And rolling through, some are already done, and then others will be finishing off by June 30th.
Okay, so just a case-by-case account of all of the contractual services that were used? Yes, please, by the Main Streets program. Do you have Esri software? Esri software?
Do we currently have it?
Yes.
We do not currently have it.
Oh, sorry, I meant to ask one other question related to the last thing before I went to this. With these contracts expiring, do you have a new contract coming online?
No, we don't.
Okay. So you do not have the Esri software. This is something that BDC had when they managed Main Streets. This is not an inexpensive software access contract, I think it is. It's probably cloud-based, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this relates to having real and up-to-date data on commercial real estate and development, and would be highly beneficial, but highly unaffordable for each individual Main Street to have. But this is something that I think is exactly the kind of centralized service that the city could be assisting with for all of the Main Streets. And I just want to encourage us to have this.
So we definitely have licenses within city government for Esri.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's something we may be able to gain access to.
Why don't we,
do not currently.
if the administration could flag this for BSIT, because I'm certain that BSIT has a software license inventory for what we have. I hope they do. I'm certain they do. So let's flag that for them and see what the constraints are around sharing of the licenses.
Okay, we'll be sure to follow up.
That
with
seems a little outside of your scope of what you have control over.
Chairman, I have an answer to that question.
You have answers on the Esri license question?
Yes, because my team recently secured Esri licenses.
Take it away, Laura.
So BSIT sort of owns the overall licenses for the city, and then city agencies who need to access it can request a license from BSIT and get it deployed.
So, Councilman, if I may, can you be in touch with Director Carter and also get us an answer by Friday about whether or not it's possible for them to share a license with you?
Sure thing.
or multiple licenses, I assume we're going to need 9 of them. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, even if we don't have 9 licenses to go out to all of the 9, this is, to me, an example of a good way that we can be a centralized point of support, right? For all of them in a way that that just makes financial sense. It makes efficiency sense to assess with that kind of stuff. And again, I think the other things that are really, really important are architectural consultancy in order for businesses to be able to prepare and plan to be able to avail themselves of programs like the Facade Improvement Grant, and an expediter for, I think, city services that are really critical to businesses. We continue to have problems with businesses and the permitting office. And, I help my Main Street in Hamilton, Lauraville, to deal with this on a case-by-case basis as I need to, but I shouldn't have to if you have a Main Streets office, and this is a key critical thing. I don't think that you should be in the business of dealing with things like trash collection and street lighting, frankly. This is DOT's responsibility. This is DPW's responsibility. Code enforcement is DHCD's responsibility. And these are things that affect, everybody in a neighborhood. Things that are very specific to businesses, like being able to have information on commercial real estate, to have design support services, and to specifically be able to assist with permitting for those specific businesses as an expediter, I think is really, really critical. And that would be a good use of resources. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, you'll be happy to know we've already been meeting regarding the permits. That's something we've been talking about with Deputy Mayor Williams' team. It's an issue we're aware of that is heavily impacting the main streets. It's causing some main streets to cancel events for permits not being issued in time. So we're very well aware of that and do want to do our best to find a way to expedite that and see how we can get potentially that team some additional resources so that we don't run into that problem, because we know the importance of the fundraising. So when they can't get permits to move forward the fundraising, it really is it's a fatal flaw when that happens. So we're trying to assist in that way to see what we can do to raise up examples of when that's happened, so that people can be aware, and so we can try to find another a path forward for potentially even just Main Street event permits.
Yeah, I mean, look, what is a city council office day to day other than essentially a full, like an all services expediter shop, right? We expedite literally everything under the sun across all city agencies for people. I think we need Main Street's offices to be able to perform just as well as a city council office in this respect. Again, not just for permits, I would say, look, while I don't think it's your business to be dealing with things like trash and street lighting, helping people to be able to get bump outs and things like that that really assist in business environment in the Main Street right of way, I think is really critical, and you can help with that. Thank you. I would have to wrap. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was heartened to realize that you just said earlier in the conversation around the you're going to have inspectors go out to job sites. This is relative to minority contracting and compliance with minority contracting. How many of your inspectors speak Spanish?
Right now, we have one that's taken some Spanish courses, that's still studying. Charlene is bilingual.
You got to hire Spanish speakers. You got to
Yes.
hire Latinos for those positions.
We are. I will give the public service announcement that we are looking for talented inspectors right now, and we would love to have bilingual instructors. We've had a challenge getting qualified inspectors. The last time, we were able to hire one inspector from the last time we advertised for the position, but we're currently advertising for inspectors. We would love to have a Spanish speaker, if not both of them be Spanish speakers, that join the team. So that's definitely our desire. And to the extent we don't have that, we're going to be working even more closely with MEMA to make sure that we have the language assistance as needed.
So I've walked onto job sites, okay? The wage theft in this town is ridiculous, okay? What is going to happen is that when you walk onto a job site and you're asking somebody how they got paid and making sure that it's not a personal check, then take action on it, okay? Because if they are getting paid with a personal check, that's illegal, first of all. And then you have to have the sensitivity and the balance relative to saying, if the person is undocumented, we still want them to work, okay? There are legal ways to do this, but they're obviously being taken advantage of the contractor. So working with the Wage Commission is going to be important as well. You need to have Latinos and Spanish speakers as your inspectors. So I will, ask for a committee request to make sure that we can get your plan on how you're going to be hiring folks. I will help you. You can send me the job description. I will send it out.
Okay.
But also your plan of action when you're seeing those things happen when you walk on a job site. What is going to be the response? Because you're going to be doing the city contracts. That's super illegal from city contract perspective. So we're going to have to figure this part out and be an example for the private contractors as well.
For certain, and that's a real issue. Just to be clear, we don't do wage enforcement. That is with the Wage Commission at OECR.
I understand, but you're going to collect the information, so you're going to know what is happening and hopefully encourage that person to make a report or be able to report the information, because you're going to be able to also say that the contractor is out of compliance.
For sure. So we're definitely going to be working in partnership. So we work in heavy partnership with OECR. They actually are one of our key beneficiaries of B2G because they're actually going to be able to have the LCP tracker system that's going to be doing all the electronic wage enforcement tracking. So they're going to be moving out of the email and paper-based system. All of that is going to rely on the contracts we have in B2G to be able to trigger when there's wage enforcement. And I believe we're going to be trying to even expand that so that local hiring, I think, is potentially going to be able to go through that as well. So we're definitely going to be utilizing partnership and letting them know of any concerns, as always. As they look out for us, we look out for them on any aspects of the project that are concerning. But we definitely will be taking even more efforts to make sure we're spreading the opportunities through the Hispanic community to make sure folks are as aware of this as possible, because we would love to, as always, we'd love to have a diverse team here.
In this case, it's super necessary. So
Indeed.
Thank you.
What are the reporting requirements for the Main Street programs, and on what frequencies?
So the programs have quarterly reports that they provide to us per the annual funding agreement. So within these reports, we see vacancies, any new businesses, concerns that they have. Charlene, is there the budget? Yeah, where they are with their budget, their fundraising, upcoming events.
Correct. And we get them quarterly, and we are working on putting together a system where all of the main streets feel like they are providing the same information and everything is coming together so that we all see the same thing from all of them, because they have differed at times. So that is one of the items that our compliance trainer is working on at the moment.
And it's since come to my attention, since our discussion about 45 minutes ago about funding, that Main Street programs are only getting a $35,000 disbursement this year, not a $60,000 disbursement. Laura, is that correct?
Is that correct? Oh, that was not my understanding.
That's woefully inadequate. So, Ms. Leach, I'd like to,
Chairman Costello, I can offer to take that as a follow-up with Director Lundy and his team.
yeah, he didn't do something bad or wrong. I'm just saying, that's not the right amount of money.
Yes, certainly, and we just want to make sure that we are interpreting the line items of the budget
Yeah.
consistently.
And we're talking about FY24?
No.
Or are you talking about in the budget for 25?
Yeah, so
Okay.
FY24, there was a $35K disbursement, and then through negotiations with the administration, we got an additional 25. My original understanding was that the new baseline, well, not original, my understanding about an hour and 15 minutes ago was that the new baseline was going to be 60, when it is in fact just 35.
Got it.
And we had a whole conversation about the cost of an executive director plus fringe and benefits, like 80 grand. And we're asking these folks to do all these reports and then also fundraise their salary. So would you agree that 35,000 is woefully inadequate?
I would agree that that definitely was not what I was anticipating for FY25, and I would like to maintain our FY24 funding level. And with that being said, I know Director Larson is fantastic at assisting us through the process.
Huge fan.
So
Yep.
to the extent that we can find a way to get that money, I would love to do so. But I know that from where we are in the process, I may need to look to other parts of my budget to
We'll take care of it.
to make up for that.
I'm sure
take
we
care of it.
can work it out with Ms. Leach. So, but I'm glad we're all in agreement that the funding level should be increased to properly support these offices. Okay. Colleagues, any other questions for our friends from MOSMBAD? Very quickly.
Yeah. Just for my own edification, if I am a white-owned business and I need to meet a minority business portion requirement, I understand that relationship. If I'm a black-owned business, just by being a black-owned business, do I satisfy the minority-owned aspect, or how does that work?
No, sir. So the goals are applicable for, so if we set a goal on a contract over $50,000, it's applicable regardless of the color, race, or gender of the business owner. The only difference is if you're a minority or woman business owner, you have the option to self-perform on the contract up to 50% of the value of the services you'll do on the contract. So if you're doing $1 million worth of work, you could in theory count up to $500,000 of that, which may exceed the goal and fully satisfy the goal, or it still may cause you to still need the subcontract. So that's where it kind of depends on it. One thing I'm going to be putting forth to the council with a revision to the Minority and Women's Business Program is a more straightforward rule that would just say you can do 50% of the goal. So if the goal is 20%, you could do up to 10%. Right now, it varies based on the contract. That $500,000 sometimes would satisfy the goal. Sometimes, if you were MBE, you would still need to subcontract another MBE just due to the size of the contract.
Oh, you can only perform up to 50% of the goal.
You can. So that's what the change I'm proposing right now. You can count 50% of the total work that a prime does on the contract towards the goal, which in some cases will satisfy it, in some cases will not. And that's why I'm saying the proposal would be just to say a flat 50% to streamline and ease and know that you can always do half. Right now, sometimes it would equal to half, sometimes it would be the entire goal.
But you're proposing that they should only be able to perform up to 50% of the goal?
Correct, to allow for more opportunities on that contract. So even if an MBE got the contract, they could perform half of the goal, but they would still need to bring on another MBE subcontractor to do 50% of that work.
I understand where you're coming from. It's not logical in a certain way, though.
So, I can appreciate that. This is one of those perspectives with the program where it's about whether you want to provide more opportunities by saying you then thus have 2 MBEs on that contract, or whether we want to grow 1 MBE and let them do all of the work. So that's kind of an approach situation at that point. And I look forward to discussing that when we get to the point of talking about the provisions and the revisions.
Do you have any sort of best practice or white paper or anything specifically addressing this concern and this question that you can share?
Self-performance specifically?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, self-performance. Sure. It's not a subject matter I'm familiar with the language of, but yeah.
So is the concern whether it's applicable to all parties or whether the prime should be able to fully perform the
anything that explains sort of debate on the subject of whether or not self-performance for 50% of the value of the contract versus 50% of the requirement on the contract. This seems to me like a debatable, like you said, a debatable kind of philosophy. And I'd like to know what the prevailing sentiment is on the pros and cons of this and the professionalized perspective on this question is.
I will look into that for you. I don't have I know I don't in and of itself have a white paper handy that I already have saved.
Yeah.
We were just, at a conference for B2G for the user training. So we were just in an executive leadership forum with folks across the country, and there's kind of a host of ways that people tackle this. There's jurisdictions where a prime can fully perform a goal with no restriction. Just if there's a 10% goal, a prime can always do 10% or 27% or whatever it is. Part of what we were doing in that discussion was really talking about best practices and where we all come from and the differences in programs and what is the best path forward. So if I'm unable, I'll definitely take it up with that group and see if I can find some literature that really speaks to this for you.
Okay, and this, in my mind, the area that this particularly interests me for is the city's towing contracts. We have and are in the process of working through some reforms to how we handle our towing contracts, and this is of the utmost importance to me and my goals, because we rely primarily on white-owned businesses who fulfill their minority portion, but the way the contracts are structured, it rules out a lot of black-owned businesses as primes, and we expect on this.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to talk
Thank
about this
you.
further with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we are now in recess. We will start liquor board in 1 minute.